Hi folks, so I'm going to combine the full moon in Aries video with the weekly overview and just do one video at this point in time to cover both the full moon in Aries, which occurs on Thursday morning, 4:26 a.m. for me. So Wednesday night, I'm recording this on Tuesday. So we are, let's see, a little over 48 hours away from the full moon. So full moon, Thursday, October 17th, 4:26 a.m. Pacific time. And you can do with that whatever it is that you need to with regard to converting it to your time zone. And we'll cover the weekly overview as well, which outside of the full moon, the rest of the transits this week are relatively straightforward. And there's really one planet, Venus, that is taking up the bulk of that activity as she gets ready to move from Scorpio into Sagittarius. Should we do a quick recap as to where the planets are, all the planets are at? We don't have any planets transiting Leo or Virgo. We do have the South Node, of course, transiting Libra. We have the Sun still in Libra. It is the Libra month till the new moon in Scorpio on November the 1st. It is still the Libra month. Mercury is also currently in Libra. Venus, oh no, sorry. Let's just do this again. Nothing in Leo, nothing in Virgo. South Node in Libra, Sun in Libra. The Sun has to be in Libra for the Aries full moon to occur because Aries is the sign opposite Libra, and that's where the moon is going to be. Mercury is in Scorpio, Venus is in Scorpio. Venus this week moves from Scorpio to Sagittarius. Pluto is in the very last degree of Capricorn, direct now, and on November the 19th will move into Aquarius. Saturn and Neptune are, of course, in Pisces. Chiron and the North Node are in Aries. Uranus is in Taurus, and Jupiter is in Gemini. That's where the planets are currently placed. Okay, let's talk about the full moon in Aries first. The very first thing I want to say about the full moon in Aries is that it's the full moon corresponding to, or it's the full moon after the April 8th new moon solar eclipse in Aries that was conjunct Chiron to the minute, not just the degree. A new moon, when it occurs, sets up a 28-day period, a month, in the sign where it occurs. And that certainly, as far as conventional astrology is concerned, is its purpose. A cycle goes from a new moon to a new moon to another new moon to a new moon to a new moon. That idea of a new moon, 14 days later, a full moon, 14 days later, another new moon, another full moon, and those are discrete 28-day periods. Practically all astrologers agree on that cycle. Let's call it a cycle. Some astrologers have started to talk about this idea that there's another cycle, that a new moon occurs 6 months later, there's a full moon in the same sign, and 6 months later, there's a new moon in that sign again. So not only do we have a new moon to new moon 28-day cycle that takes us from one sign to the other sign to the other sign on kind of an annual journey or walk or perambulation around the chart, there's a larger cycle related to the sign in which the new moon occurs. So which is the new moon occurred on April the 8th, roughly 6 months later, on October the 17th, we have a full moon in Aries. And then, gosh, I actually think I know when the next new moon in Aries is too. On March the 29th, we're going to have a new moon solar eclipse in Aries next year. So, and a similar cycle of increase to some extent of energy and down again. This latter part of there being an increase in it, I'm not completely convinced about. I don't know that as we have a full moon in it. I think I'm intrigued by this idea, and I do think that there's something to the notion of a new moon occurring and the corresponding full moon 6 months later, things may reach a kind of peak or a culmination point. If it's an eclipse, then we have a new moon solar eclipse in a particular sign, and then we have a full moon lunar eclipse in the same sign. That doesn't happen nearly as often as we think it will. On the Aries-Libra axis, it's only happened once. October 14th of last year, 2023, there was a new moon solar eclipse in Libra, and March 24th, 25th of this year, 2024, there was a corresponding lunar eclipse in Libra. Outside of that, we've had eclipses where the solar eclipse and the lunar eclipse occur in different signs. So we had the solar eclipse on April the 8th in Aries, and we had a lunar eclipse on September the 17th in Pisces. We have the new moon solar eclipse in Libra on October the 2nd, and we have on March 17th of next year, March 19th of next year, hold on, let me get you the right date, March 13th of next year, the full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo. So they're not in course, but insofar as we had a new moon solar eclipse in Aries, and insofar as the Aries part of the chart is numero uno through the end of the first week of June next year about the direction that we're trying to move towards, and the Libra part of the chart is where we're trying to release something, and that is the primary priority arc that is in all of our lives right now, with all the other parts of the chart fitting in. We need to stabilize the Pisces part of the chart. The Taurus part of our chart is encouraging us to move in a direction that's right for us. The Gemini part of the chart, there's an ending and new beginning. Pluto wants its transformation in Capricorn to be completed. The Sun and Mercury and Venus and the new moons are putting their spotlight wherever they're going. Venus is traveling, Cygnus getting just travel further and further ahead of the Sun. So wherever she goes, she's going to go into Sagittarius on the 17th, on the day of the full moon. And after Venus goes into Sagittarius, Mercury doesn't come into Sagittarius till November the 2nd. So really, and then the Sun follows on November the 21st. And then we have the new moon on November the 30th. So Venus actually enters Sag about a month and a half before the new moon actually occurs there. So she creates opportunities in Sagittarius during October and during the rest of October, till November the 11th. But while Mercury comes in on November the 2nd to pick up on those opportunities, and while the Sun will come in on November the 21st, and we'll have the new moon on November 30th, we don't get to really capitalize or work on them till November, but especially December. Anyway, all of that is happening, but it's the Aries part of the chart where this full moon is occurring right now, where we had a new moon solar eclipse, a North Node new moon solar eclipse. On April the 8th of this year, we have one on March the 29th of next year, and this is the full moon in between those. This full moon is also conjunct Chiron. It is not conjunct Chiron to the degree or the minute, but on its way to becoming full, the moon will conjunct Chiron. It's going to be relatively full. Give me one sec. There's one more thing I want to mention related to this. Hold your horses, people, for a second. And on October the 13th, 4 days on Sunday, I think that was, right? That was October the 13th. On October the 13th, on Sunday, the Sun opposed Chiron 4 days before the full moon. And so the Sun is already opposed Chiron. The moon, as it becomes full a few hours before the full moon, will conjunct Chiron. So we have a pretty full Chiron as well. And Chiron symbolizes, of course, both in our birth chart and when it's transiting, the sort of cheesy word to use is healing. And what it's really doing is it's returning ourselves to ourselves whichever part of the chart it is transiting. And that is what is relevant to what I'm saying here. It is identifying some sort of wound or woundedness that separated us from our whole complete self, likely in childhood, and it is seeking to heal that. It is seeking to make us aware of that. It is seeking to return us to a more powerful, more complete state. And with Chiron, the process is challenging and painful because, as I've said numerous times before on this channel, without getting too gory, you can't heal something without feeling it, identifying it, diagnosing it, determining what needs to be done to repair it, to heal it. And so often it means that Chiron brings us to similar situations in our life where we come face to face with, oh, we recognize and realize, because we are that much older now and that much more aware about where it is that we lack power and feel like we've sort of been separated from something very essential to ourselves, and where it is that we can reclaim that power and heal that by re-exposing us to scenarios or situations that bring us face to face with that wound again, make us feel it again, make us feel the impact of that wound again. So in a certain sense, while we've been encouraged to move in the direction of the Aries part of the chart, the house occupied by Aries, where the North Node eclipses have been occurring since March, April of 2023, and they continue to exercise their influence till the end of the first week of June of 2025. And this arc between September, especially October 2nd, till the end of is finally when we can release what it is that we want to release or need to release in the Libra part of the chart and move towards the Aries part of the chart. The question, especially following the solar eclipse on April the 8th, is what have we gotten in touch with? As you know, moving towards the Aries part of the chart with all these solar eclipses, as I've said, on the Aries-Libra axis, the eclipses have been overwhelmingly solar eclipses, just as the eclipses on the Pisces-Virgo axis will be overwhelmingly lunar eclipses. Solar eclipses create the sense of, I need to move towards something. I need to plant certain seeds. I need to go in this direction. Something needs to grow here. Something needs to, these are new moons. So we had a new moon solar eclipse in Aries on April the 19th, was it? 2023? April the 8th of this year, March 29th of next year. April the 8th, 2024, March 29th, 2025. And the April 8th of this year, conjuncting Chiron to the minute, its purpose could very well have been to connect us to our power base, to help us identify if we're really going to move in a certain direction. As you know, the journey towards the Aries part of the chart has been full of moving forward and backwards, wanting to move in a certain direction, March, April, May, June, July, August of 23, identifying and feeling stopped and blocked by it, and identifying what needed to be released, September, October, November, December, January, February, March. September, October of 23 to March 24. April, Mercury retrograde, and the eclipses again reconnecting us to the direction we need to move towards. May, June, July, some forward movement. August, another Mercury retrograde. Reality check. What's really happening? What direction are we moving in? What timelines make sense to us? Oh, I thought I could do this sooner. The timeline to the end of the first week of June really does make sense. And then starting September, October, September to the end of the first week of June, another complete arc. But we can, part of the reason why we can move towards that arc, as I've been saying, is we know so much more now. And we might feel much freer and much more healed and much more empowered in a way that we did not in 2023 to move towards the direction that we want to move in. We might also be more comfortable being open to what the final outcome looks like, what we're actually going to gain from the experience, recognizing that the North Node exercises a certain pull, but the North Node also presents things as flashier than they turn out to be. But here, 6 months after that new moon conjunct Chiron, we have a full moon conjunct Chiron. It is a full moon, not an eclipse. We have just come through the eclipses. And I don't care who you are and how quiet the eclipses may have been for you. They were relatively quiet for me, but boy, there were eclipses. Certainly that October 2nd one, for me, I can say, brought me face to face with, yep, this is what needs to, I got a confirmation. If there was any doubt in September, October with regard to what it is that needed to be released. The October 2nd eclipse this year made it just was like, all right, get with the program. Probably a week before after December 2nd, you're going to have to release this. So prepare and act accordingly and start to move in that direction. Now, we're heading towards, in about a month and 10 days time, a Mercury retrograde and a Mars retrograde, and then a Mercury and Venus retrograde. And we know that really, and in many respects, this particular full moon energetically ushers us into fall of this year and the astrology of fall of this year. So the full moon is conjunct Chiron, and you might find, or you might reflect on, or you might feel, it's possible that you might feel, you might recently have been taking stock of, even over the past week and a half, with the sun in Libra opposing Chiron, and us having a full Chiron on Sunday, you might have been feeling like, oh wow, hopefully you're feeling this way, I'm in a different place. Whatever it is in the Aries part of the chart that was looking to be healed, I am clearly on a journey towards it, and I'm feeling that much more healed, or completely healed, or on my way to being healed, or that much more empowered, or feeling a certain optimism, a certain freedom, a certain power, feeling more complete, feeling like lessons have been processed and are being processed. With a new moon solar eclipse conjuncting Chiron, it's the beginning of a process and a cycle. With the full moon, there's an emotional taking stock. And it could be that as you head towards the full moon, something occurs that makes you feel like, I'm ready to deal with this in a different way. I'm going to react to this in a different way. Now, with the full moon and the Chiron energy, it could very well be something that you dealt with between October 8th and October 13th, as the sun was getting into place to oppose Chiron, where you were just like, oh wow, I feel so much more, I'm so much aware of the journey I've taken in the Aries part of the chart, the Chiron factor, how much more confident I feel, how much I feel I have repaired or certain lack of self-confidence, lack of ability to make decisions, lack of ability to trust ourselves. What is this kind of thing where we feel like something has separated us from ourselves, where we've given our power away to somebody else to think, to determine, to run or manage or control things, or to remove something from our own power base? So much more a contemplation of how much more empowered, free, optimistic, in control, a reassurance, a full Chiron, like a full moon. But now with the full moon conjuncting Chiron, with a full moon, it is an emotional, intuitive reaction. The sun is going over Libra. We had a new moon solar eclipse in Libra on October 2nd. The month of Libra continues till November the 1st. There's both what needs to be released in the Libra part of the chart, and there's also the fact that it's a new moon. So there are also opportunities and things related to the Libra part of the chart that could be seeds being planted, opportunities for a certain kind of growth. It's both the monthly Libra opportunities that we are meant to avail of, and the eclipsy South Node Libra, what needs to be released in the Libra part of the chart to help us to move to the Aries part of the chart that we are aware of. And as we head to the full moon, the new moon happens, 2 weeks later, a full moon happens in the opposite chart. and the moon, our energy, our emotional and intuitive feeling self. It wouldn't surprise me at all if for the past 3 or 4 or 5 days and heading to the full moon, we continue to feel like we're running on all cylinders. Things are unwieldy, things are chaotic, things are anxious. There's a lot to get done. I need to do this and this and this. I will never get this done and that done and this. And as I've said, sometimes it's the week after the full moon, as you know, I've said, is always the most productive one because the energies are more balanced. Heading towards a full moon, the fire is lit and there's anxiety and there's urgency, but that anxiety can also be exhausting and it can sort of compromise our productivity a little bit. Nevertheless, the cup runneth over. The to-do list runneth over. Whatever needs to be done, what can get done, what can't get done, the things that are happening, that are not happening, that require effort, our emotional, intuitive, anxious, peaceful self, the cup of milk comes to a boil. With full moons, offers can come in, culminations can come in. So if something related to the new moon solar eclipse in Aries last year, this year, had an opportunity flavor to it, it could be that over the next few days, something comes through. As we head towards the Aries part of the chart and release what we need to in the Libra part of the chart, we're looking for external confirmation also with regard to what can accelerate and propel this process. It's hard to release without knowing what we're getting to. And what we're getting to is likely not completely defined in an actual sense. But we ourselves, if an opportunity is not there and clarity is not there with regard to where we're headed to, as I've said to you in the last few videos, I think we are at a point where we're like, you know what? I am done with the status quo. I'm done with the feeling of stagnation related to the Libra part of the chart, and I'm going to start the process of releasing. I'm going to start to prepare to board that plane that gets me somewhere by the end of the first week of June next year. Even if it means that I'm staying where I am staying, the October 2nd solar eclipse might have made it abundantly clear with regard to what it is that needs to be released. This is in the way. This is the direction we're trying to move in. It's interesting. I've done a number of Virgo rising chart readings this week. Every week there's sort of a preponderance. And because for Virgo rising people, the eclipses are going over the 8th and the 7th houses, you know, there's an emphasis on focus on partnerships. What's working, what's not working, what's contemplating, what do we need to build, do we need to stabilize. So it means that part of what is being released for a Virgo rising person, it would be in the 2nd house that the eclipse of release has happened. A certain amount of independence, emotional, financial independence, is currently being released in order to explore what it means to be in partnership again. Or it could even mean, because exploring partnerships can also mean separations in partnerships. Handling partnership issues, for example. It just came to me. It was on my mind. It's been on my mind for the past 72 hours or more as more and more Virgo rising charts have come up. What do I need to resolve? What do I need to solve? What is working? Well, that's just an example. It's a general example too. So see how that resonates for you and how it might fit into your chart. Professional partnerships, personal part, blah, blah, blah. This is not a Virgo rising specific reading. But this idea of so full moons can bring meltdowns, intensity, intuitive flare-ups, emotional flare-ups. What is really truthfully occurring for either yourself or somebody else emotionally and intuitively might erupt in the form of a tantrum or a kind of a dramatic expression, a full moony expression. tears, an increase in sensuality, an intensification of emotion. But it can also mean visibility. Not massive visibility, visibility for a few days. If you've got Aries in your 11th house, which makes you a Gemini rising, for example, it could mean that either on social media or with your friends or network circle, something gets announced in such a way that for a few days it gives you a certain kind of visibility, for example. Something similar could occur if you have Aries in your 3rd house, which would make you an Aquarius rising, for example. It's not the only interpretation for those right. It's more for the 11th house anyway. So there are positive connotations too, as far as the full moon is concerned, in terms of offers or culminations or completions or endings, leaving an organization, leaving a situation, departing. But more than the full moony, the to-do list spills over, the cup spills over, the pot of milk comes to a boil and threatens to spill over, the visibility, the disk of the moon being full, and so our emotional and intuitive selves are lit up. All of that is absolutely fine. What is more interesting and intriguing to me is this idea that the sun opposes Chiron 4 days before the full moon, and then the full moon conjuncts Chiron on its way to being full. And it's the same Chiron that was conjunct the new moon, the sun, and the moon, to the minute, on April the 8th, earlier this year, when the new moon solar eclipse in Aries occurred. So it's worth contemplating over the past 6 months how you're feeling about things, even if things are in a precarious place, an anxious place. In the Aries part of the chart, what has healed? What are the lessons that you have learned and processed? And healing can often mean reflecting on who we are and the mistakes we have made as well. Often we make mistakes because we're not feeling whole and complete and empowered in a particular area of our lives. We are off our power base. We are not feeling empowered. We don't feel powerful, and so we do things that get us into trouble. Now, why did I say that this full moon is sort of entering us into the fall, even though fall occurred on September 21st, 3 odd weeks ago? Because the full moon in and of itself squares Pluto in Capricorn and squares Mars in Cancer. The squaring Mars in Cancer is closer in orb. The squaring Pluto, it's a little more than 5 degrees apart. But I become kind of stupidly OCD about aspects that are 5 degrees apart, more than 5 degrees apart. But in this case, I've got to factor it in. It's barely more than 5 degrees apart, and it's a square to Pluto. And Mars is in the last few degrees of Cancer. Mars is going to enter Leo in November, is going to go retrograde on December the 4th. And as part of this retrograde, Mars is going to oppose Pluto 3 times. And the first of these oppositions will occur on November the 3rd. If there's been an arc from September to the end of the first week of June, even more strongly after October the 2nd, at some point change is going to kick in and intensify. I think the eclipses lit a fire under our butt and shook the rug from under our feet. And if it didn't swipe it from under our feet, as it did for certain people, it certainly shook it enough to make us go, oh, wow, I've got to do something. And as we start to head into Mars, which is slowing down, getting ready to oppose Pluto in 2 weeks' time, we're really starting to enter, even though the first of the retrogrades is Mercury going retrograde on the 26th of November, and that is still a while away. With this full moon, we enter the period of these kind of labor pangs that are really going to start occurring with that first Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius. But with the Mars, you know, Mars is already trined Saturn. That's the first of the aspects he's going to make 3 times. He's already squared Chiron once. He is on his way to trining Neptune close to the end of the month in October. I think it's October 28th or 29th. And then on November the 3rd, he opposes Pluto. Mars in Cancer in the very last degree and Pluto in Capricorn in the very last degree. The next two oppositions when Mars is retrograde that Mars will oppose Pluto with will occur with Mars in Leo and Pluto in Aquarius. And Mars, when he enters Leo, the other aspect that he's going to make 3 times is trining the North Node. It is an overwhelmingly, for the most part, positive Mars retrograde with 3 trines occurring 3 times to Saturn, to Neptune, to the North Node. We can't scoff at that. There's a square to Chiron, so this healing needs to continue, and it's part of this process. The Pisces part of the chart with the trines to Saturn and Neptune continue to be stabilized. The first couple of trines to the North Node occur while the North Node is in Aries. It's all very much, the Mars retrograde is a very easy to understand with regard to this overall arc of us moving towards the Aries part of the chart, giving it one more shot to see what we can get out of these North Node eclipses in Aries till the end of the first week of June of next year, while also focusing on stabilizing the Pisces part of the chart so that whatever crisis has been brewing there does not spill over. And the Mars retrograde is absolutely perfectly in conversation with those energies. The next set of energies, with Venus and Mercury going retrograde between Aries and Pisces in March and April of next year, it's happening in the 2 signs we just talked about, which direction we're moving in. March 29th, we've got the new moon solar eclipse in Aries again, the Pisces part of the chart. By that time, the North Node will be in Pisces, and Neptune, of course, in Pisces, Saturn in Pisces, stabilizing. Same energies. The one outlier in the upcoming retrogrades is the Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius between November 26th and December the 15th. There's something that retrograde provides. We know that it provides something to Jupiter, who is retrograde right now, creating an ending and new beginning in Gemini, because that Mercury retrograde is going to oppose Jupiter 3 times. And I did a video on the Jupiter retrograde, Mercury opposing it, just a few videos ago. So you can always look at that. It might have been my last one, but you can take a look at that. So we know that somewhere that Mercury retrograde enters the conversation, contributes to that conversation. And from Sagittarius, I think that Mercury will square Saturn and Neptune. Venus is getting ready as she enters Sagittarius to trine the North Node in Aries. So the conversations are live. Mars retrograde and the Mercury-Venus retrograde in March, April, very much in conversation with this arc of us moving towards the Aries part of the chart, moving in a more authentic direction, the Taurus part of our chart, working with Jupiter to end and create a new beginning in the Gemini part of the chart. And of course, in the meantime, trying to stabilize the Pisces part of the chart, which has been in distress since 2012, but particularly 14, 15, 16, 17. All of this fits together. That Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius, we'll see where and how it enters the conversation. But Venus entering Sagittarius on the 17th, over the next 3 or 4 weeks, might bring up certain opportunities, relationship opportunities, financial opportunities, job opportunities, the day-to-day luck and blessings that might start to make that process, might start to give us some clarity as to what role the Sagittarius part of the chart is going to play in this conversation. But coming back to the Mars retrograde, the big thing, the aspects outside the conjunction to Chiron that this full moon makes is that it is square Mars and Pluto. And the full moon is the faster moving energy. Pluto is transforming, has been transforming the Capricorn part of our chart since 2008. And as it heads out of Capricorn, is looking to complete that transformation by November the 19th. Mars, for whatever reason, is going to go over Cancer and Leo, certain degrees of them, 3 times. And it is an essential part of And with Mars going retrograde, I've already done a Mars retrograde video, it's as if our plans, our plan of action needs to be revised. We realize that certain things can't, the example I've given you is, it's like you're doing a renovation in your house. And when Mars goes retrograde, you realize that the blueprint is not going to work as is. How you're pursuing your goals, where you're putting your energy, where you're setting your boundaries needs to be shaken up. It's not the right plan, and it's not going to be clear yet. But Mars and Pluto aspects are felt. The Mars-Pluto conjunction I've been talking to you about on February the 14th of this year, followed by a Venus-Pluto conjunction on February the 17th of this year. I've been talking about how that occurred in Aquarius. So again, we have a conjunction moving towards a series of oppositions. Somewhere, the energy of December, January, February, December 23, January, February of 24 is coming back around to be revisited based on where we are at right now and looking for a certain kind of conclusion and completion. And Mars and Pluto conjuncted on February the 14th, and the first of the oppositions is on November the 3rd, with 2 more oppositions to follow on January the 3rd and April the 26th. And as I've mentioned to you, between January 20th and February 20th of this year, something could have come up while we had an awareness of what is it that needed to be released in the Libra part of the chart between October 14th of 2023 and March 24th, 25th of 2024. Something may have occurred between January 20th and February 20th that broke open the door. But with Mars and Pluto, there's an element of forcefulness, even violence. I mean, Mars and Pluto are the two, I mean, what can I tell you? You know, Mars planet, our testosterone, our pursuing our goals, setting boundaries. At his best, appropriately assertive and energetic. When not at his best, a bull in a china shop, accident prone, injury prone, causing injury, causing accidents, aggressive, not assertive, hot-tempered, violent. Pluto, nothing gets in the way of the changes that Pluto is trying to make. Pluto's going to make you make them one way or the other. And I think that in general, Pluto tries to work for our benefit. So either get with the program and see what changes Pluto's trying to make and support them, or else, as I've said, Pluto can land you with something that forces you to make those changes anyway. And Pluto's trying to finish up. So what action does Mars, there's like a series of dominoes. With the Mars-Pluto opposition, not exact till November the 3rd, but the energies are now operating. And they're going to intensify. And nowhere are they going to be more intense than during the month of November, because with the November 1st Scorpio new moon, the two rulers of Scorpio, Mars and Pluto, will be opposing each other. And that energy is going to be encoded into November. One of the ways to think about it is what action needs to be taken in the Cancer part of the chart by Mars, pursuing goal-setting boundaries that can support Pluto in making the transformations, finally, that he's trying to make in the Capricorn part of the chart. But then as we come back to this full moon, there's an overall question. As we contemplate what needs to be released in the Libra part of the chart, and we go through kind of the annual month of Libra and also availing of opportunities in the Libra part of the chart, and as the Aries full moon occurs, making us think of how it is that we have healed, it's the full moon, it's something on the Libra axis, Libra-Aries axis that needs to be done, processed, acted on, that assists both Mars and Pluto. And here's the gist of it. It is a reconnection to what we're moving towards and what we're releasing. Reconnecting. Now, for some people, as I said, an offer could come in, a contract could come in, an opportunity could come in, something could come in on that axis that helps you say, okay, I am moving towards the Aries part of the chart, releasing something, Libra part of the chart. For some people, the eclipses, particularly the October 2nd eclipse, the week before on October 2nd, could have created a situation that made you go, oh my God, the ground underneath my feet is shaking. I've got to start to take action and release what I need to and accelerate this process. Who knows where I'm going to be by the week before and after December the 2nd. So change is here. We're reacting to it. The enemy for us is going to be resistance to change. But getting clear on what we want to move towards, what direction we want to move towards, and what needs to be released. For some reason, how we have healed, how we have become complete, and how that is empowering us to take, even in the absence of any clear opportunity or any clear idea of what the final outcome is going to look like. Resolving, making us feel like I'm going to start moving because I need to, and taking action because I need to. Somewhere is a necessary step for Mars to continue to take action and pursue goals in the Cancer part of the chart as he moves towards this opposition with Pluto, who's finishing up whatever he's trying to finish up in the Capricorn part of the chart. There is an energetic connection, and it may even be an action-based connection related to what is going on the Aries-Libra axis, the overall carrot at the end of the stick that we are pursuing till the end of the first week of June next year, whatever it is that we need to release in the Libra part of the chart that is part of that, something on that axis, it is either reconnection or something actually occurs that supports and is in conversation with Pluto finishing up his transit in Capricorn and Mars getting in place to Pluto's transit through Capricorn this year, but especially last couple of 22, 23, and especially in 23 when Pluto was in the last few degrees, he trined Uranus from Capricorn. Actually, I don't know if he ever completely trined Uranus. The Uranus-Pluto trine is going to occur. He did not trine Uranus, but he was supported. The Capricorn transit supported. Jupiter was in Taurus between May of 23 to May of 24. Uranus in Taurus. Jupiter-Uranus conjunction on April the 20th. Moving towards the Aries part of the chart. Changes occurring, significant changes to support us from moving in a desired direction in the Taurus part of the chart all the way to June of next year as well. And those changes being necessary to help Pluto feel victorious and complete with his transformation in the Capricorn part of the chart. As I said, there's a certain energy that is coming back around again. The Mars-Pluto opposition in and of itself takes us back to the second week of February and heading towards that. And what is it that needs to happen between Mars in Cancer and Pluto in Capricorn, and then Mars in Leo twice and Pluto in Aquarius? What is that square off about? How is Mars in Cancer and Leo needed to take action? How is it going to serve Pluto in Capricorn? And there could be an element of force, attack, Mars-Pluto squares, oppositions, conjunctions will be felt. As I said, the only reason why I'm actually encouraged by them is I think they're contributing to a transformation that is needed. And the nice thing is that Mars is making just trine after trine after trine as part of its direct, retrograde, direct. And the only planet it squares is Chiron. So whatever action Mars is taking contributes to this healing. So full moon in Aries, you know what? No, it's fine. We'll do both the full moon and the weekly overview as well. Full moon in Aries conjuncting Chiron. Contemplation of how much more empowered and healed we might be since April the 8th of last year. And where are we at in our journey towards where we want to go in the Aries part of the chart? Likely not very far, but also likely not feeling like we are very far, but we know so much more and we want to make one final push in that direction. Gives it a priority with regard to us moving towards that transformation. And these last couple of eclipses, particularly the October 2nd eclipse, could really have done something to propel us in that direction. And the full moon isn't here yet. We've still got another 48 to 72 hours to kind of see what it is that it's going to bring, what is going to come up. But something about it is going to support the transformation that Mars and Pluto are trying to create and finalize. Pluto's trying to finalize whatever he's doing in the Capricorn part of the chart by November the 19th. And something that Mars has to do from the signs of Cancer and Leo. You know how I'm feeling about that clanging that is happening, if you can hear it. Something about what Mars has to do in Cancer and Leo. Action, boundaries, going back to January 20th to February 20th, but particularly February the 14th. We've had enough time since that conjunction now to take stock of certain things. And whatever this Mars retrograde is doing is an essential part of what I've been saying to you is moving towards the end of the first week of June is not an instant process. The reason why I think that this full moon brings us into the energy of fall is because we are now actively, even if it is as simple as it reconnects us to where it is that we want to go and what changes we want to make, and it reconnects us to what feels stagnant and what we need to release. And it reconnects us to the fact that, wow, I really haven't moved very far on this, but I really want to. And I am feeling like I have to energize and escalate my own efforts to start to create the transformation I want to create. That in itself could very well be a reconnection with this full moon towards that Aries compass carrot at the end of the stick that we've been trying to pursue since March, April, May, June of last year. And we have the chance to move it in a certain direction by the end of the first week of June of next year. But this whole process of Mars retrograde, Mercury retrograde in Sag, Mars retrograde, Venus Mars retrograde in Pisces and Aries, that whole process, while it technically doesn't start till November the 26th, energetically it is in play. Because Mars is certainly now very much in its shadow degrees. So the new moon on September the 2nd in Virgo kick-started this timeline after the Mercury retrograde in August. The new moon solar eclipse on October the 2nd accelerated even further by shaking the ground from under our feet. And this full moon in Aries just pushes us over the edge to start to move and start to take action. Because it leads us 2 weeks into the fact, into this highly transformative energy. Now, other aspects that are occurring. It's a full moon in Aries ruled by Mars. Mars is in Cancer. Cancer is ruled by the moon. So Mars is the ruler of this chart. And of course, the full moon squares Mars. And it's almost kind of more important to think about how this full moon is informing Mars and the actions he needs to take. And Mars is thinking about what actions does he need to take and what boundaries does he need to set to support Pluto. Even though the full moon squares Pluto, it's really the square to Mars is closer and Mars is the ruler. So the full moon, the sun and the moon, the sun squares Mars on Did the sun already square Mars on the... Give me one sec. The sun squared Mars yesterday on October the 14th. The sun squares Pluto on October the 22nd. On its way to entering Scorpio. Something about the full moon informs Mars. Mars is actively figuring out how to serve Pluto. So it's this kind of domino of service. But ultimately, this full moon is about reflecting on how much we have healed and how much more whole and complete we are, and how much readier we feel in order to be able to move forward and take action in desired directions in the Aries part of the chart and release what we need to in the Libra part of the chart. And it also, as a result of this full moon, it increases the energy and the intensity of us taking action towards change in such a way that it ushers in this very dynamic energy between now and the end of April, where we have 4 retrogrades as far as the personal planets are concerned, and aspect after aspect after aspect, some of which are very positive. Now, as far as the week is concerned, October 14th, yesterday, the sun squared Mars, Venus opposed Uranus. Today, Venus trines Neptune. October 21st, Venus having entered, because Venus enters on the full moon. So yesterday, the sun squared Mars, Venus opposed Uranus. Today, Venus trines Neptune. On the 17th, we have the full moon and Venus enters Sagittarius. On the 21st, which is really as far as I should go as far as the week is concerned, Venus trines the North Node and Mercury in Scorpio trines Saturn in Pisces. On the 20th, it's worth saying that the sun squares Pluto on his way to Scorpio. Venus is a prime mover this month as she finishes up. She opposed Uranus 2 days ago, or she opposed Uranus yesterday. Wait, hold on. She opposed Uranus yesterday on October the 14th. She trines Neptune today. She enters Sagittarius on the 17th. And on the 21st, she trines the North Node. And that trine to the North Node is what... If you were to say what are the other transits that are encoded into this full moon, really the full moon occurs a few days after Venus trines Neptune. So that's done. But Mars is getting the only aspect outside of the ones we've talked about that have to do with the full moon. Because Mars opposing Pluto is related to the full moon because the full moon squares Mars and Pluto. Is the fact that Mars is getting ready to trine Neptune. And we've been talking about this strange supportive energy within the water signs. As the planets go into Scorpio, they're trining Mars in Cancer, and they're trining Saturn and Neptune in Pisces. And as we deal with this full moon, it isn't a grand trine between Venus, Mars, and Neptune, but it almost is. Venus trines Neptune today. Mars trines Neptune, I think, October 28th. But that trine is already active. So again, stabilizing the Pisces part of the chart, there being a certain flow, there being a certain harmony, is in the picture in the air. It's a very mysterious energy. Very mysterious energy. It's almost as if these positive trines, it's almost like things are working underneath. But the Venus trine North Node, when, we can't ignore that trine. Does something come up from the Sagittarius part of the chart that connects you to? We have the full moon in Aries conjunct Chiron. And then a few days after that, Venus, after she enters Sagittarius on the same day as the full moon, she trines, creates a flow and opportunity with the North Node in Aries, which is really what we're following till the end of the first week of June of next year. There could be an opportunity or something that a seed is sown or something happens a little bit behind the scenes. And as we get ready by the middle of November for Mercury to come in and start to get ready to trine the North Node. Let's see, give me one sec. That'll happen in November. And then the sun gets ready to trine the North Node. We have the new moon in Sagittarius. With Venus trining the North Node in Sagittarius at the end of this week, as I said, there's something about this full moon that pushes us into the energy of fall. With Venus trining Neptune, she's starting this conversation with giving the Sagittarius part of the chart a certain amount of prominence, creating the opportunity with this trine to the North Node, but then also preparing the opportunity, the relationship opportunity, the financial opportunity, the creative opportunity, the job opportunity, the whatever, the luck, so that as Mercury and the Sun move into Sagittarius, they can capitalize on that. And then, of course, Mercury is going to go retrograde in Sag. Whoever's repairing whatever they're repairing is driving me bananas. And you know it. I'm sorry about that. So transits this week. Today, Venus trines Neptune on Tuesday. Full moon on the 17th, and Venus enters Sagittarius. And on the 21st, Venus trines the North Node, and Mercury trines Saturn. On the 22nd, which is technically next week, the Sun squares Pluto and enters Scorpio. And the Pluto square we've already talked about and addressed with the full moon squaring Pluto and Mars. There's room for opportunity this week. With Mercury trining Saturn, if Venus was creating some sort of opportunity during the, from the middle of September to the middle of October in the Scorpio part of the chart, there could start, we could be headed towards hearing something about those opportunities, being in conversation about those opportunities, thinking about the Scorpio part of the chart. The Scorpio part of the chart is going to get more and more prominent as this week progresses and we head towards October the 22nd, when the Sun is going to enter Scorpio. This is a heavy video because it contains a lot, but it can be broken down. Full moon in Aries conjuncting Chiron, contemplating how far we've come over the past 6 months and how we feel that we are ready to move forward. Could also be frustration and anxiety that we have not been able to move forward yet, creating the impetus to do so. Mars and Pluto getting ready to oppose each other, taking us back to the February the 14th. Why would they need to oppose each other 3 times? Something from that time reaching a kind of a culmination, needing resolution, and that resolution being important, an important factor towards us moving towards a desired direction, the Aries part of the chart, by the end of the first week of June of next year. Something about this full moon needed for Mars to take the actions in the Cancer part of the chart and set the boundaries in the Cancer part of the chart. Energy still being a little bit easier right now as far as supporting the Pisces part of the chart is concerned, with these trines to Neptune that Venus and Mars are making. And by the end of this week, Venus enters Sagittarius and she trines the North Node. As we head towards the end of the first week of June, we're going to need a mixture of opportunity and an awareness of what is making us resist that opportunity that needs to be released. And there's room for that opportunity to start to develop as Venus gets in place to trine the North Node. Because that'll be followed by Mercury trining the North Node and the Sun trining the North Node as those planets enter Sagittarius later in November. This full moon takes us into this very active, dynamic energy, and November will become even more transformative as a month. So let's see what the next 48 to 72 hours bring. Already, there should at least be an awareness of our power and how much we may have healed and how much more confident we might be and how much we have returned to ourselves in the past 6 months in the Aries part of the chart, which both is positive, but then also gives us the impetus to say, all right, well, and as I said, the eclipses that have just happened will have shaken things up enough for us to feel like we need to be in action. But there's a set of dominoes. The full moon in Aries and the Sun in Libra, Mars in Cancer, Pluto in Capricorn. And in the meantime, Venus quietly starts to move towards that North Node and starts to create and solidify and creates an opening or a portal for what that carrot at the end of the stick that we get to at the end of the first week of June, by the end of the first week of June of next year, could look like. All right, I will leave it at this. If you are interested in me taking a look at your birth chart and giving you a reading, please contact me in the email address below. There are a number of different options. There are single topic 30-minute reading if you just want to talk about the eclipses, etc. You can do that. There are fuller readings. If you email me, I'll get you the information on those. I am running $50 30-minute specials on Pluto in Capricorn and Aquarius. I'm running a 30-minute $50 special on Jupiter in Gemini. And again, those are and the water sign trine. So those are 3 different $50 30-minute specials. If you're interested in those, you can just let me know as well. Those are very specific topics. And as I've said before, when I get this specific on those specials, I'm not expecting a ton of time. But if people are interested in saying, hey, I want to drill down just on this for $50 for half an hour, then you can do that too. But there are other options as well. There are fuller, more comprehensive readings available. And there's another 30-minute option that's a little bit more expensive, focusing on a single topic or area of your choice. My brain is scrambled eggs by now, just by virtue of everything that I've been processing, and we're over the 1 hour mark. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, you find the content useful, feel free to do so. Click the subscribe button. There's a bell icon next to the subscribe button. Hover over it. Click on the wiggly bell on top. You'll be notified when I do new videos. There's a thanks button at the bottom of this video. You can use that to contribute to the channel. Comment on the video. Like the video if you feel so inclined. It gives it greater circulation on YouTube. If you find my content useful, feel free to tell friends and other people about it who you think might benefit from it. It'll help grow the channel. Thank you for your patience through this hour. Take from this video, there's a lot to process. And I know that for some people, they may feel like, well, it's listening to it. But I've come to realize that my content really, in so many ways, is that much richer for people who can sit down with their chart and know and understand and piece it all together. That's where the magic and the fun is. If I keep it general and generic and kind of panicky or it's not fulfilling. It's not fulfilling. And it's amazing. I mean, I look at these, those of you, you know where in the narrative of everything this full moon video fits. That's the thing about the astrology that is so constantly amazing as to how these lunations fit into this overall narrative. Bottom line, if you want a two things about this full moon are important and relevant. An awareness of how much we have grown and finding our power base in the Aries part of the chart. And number two, an even further acceleration into change and movement between now and at least the middle to the end of April of next year, that we can then stabilize by the end of the first week of June of next year. And the third thing I will say is a gearing up for that Mars-Pluto opposition on November the 3rd from Cancer to Capricorn, knowing that Pluto is trying to complete his journey through the Capricorn part of the chart and his transformation of the Capricorn part of the chart by November the 19th. That's it. I'll leave it at that summary. Thanks. Take care.